I want to talk about my comm plan, and specifically, I want to talk about these radios I just bought. This is the Midland GXT1030. I think it's actually the GXT1000, and the 30 just denotes the yellow color on the front. I think there's like 6 different colors you can get, and they all have a different number. So if you get the GXT1000, you're looking at the same radio pretty much. So I'll just confess, I'm just not into comms. I'm not interested in it. I like the radio to work, but I'm not interested in how it works or keeping it working. And I recognize that as a character flaw. And I recognize that I have to have comms. So I started out buying just these little bitty GMRS, FRS radios. I have some Midlands, and then I have a set of Cobras. And I will say these Cobras are nice little radios. Um, I can't remember exactly. I think these are the 195s, and I'm pretty impressed with them. They have 20 or 22 channels. They have weather. These Cobras have weather, and they also have an option where you can use rechargeable batteries. Now these tiny little Midlands I got, they're pretty rinky-dink. They don't have weather. They also have about 20, 22 channels. Now one thing they do have, and I am impressed with this, is when I got these big boys, they came with some little hurt your ear headsets. And you know what? Those things are compatible with these little cheap walkie-talkies. So that was kind of impressive. So that way if I want to hurt my ear with a little radio or a big radio, I have that option. But for a long time, like I said, that's what I had. And for talking on the property, these work great. I can walk all over my property. My wife can be in the house, and I can be at the furthermost of our property line, and these things work great. Very few obstructions. In a home defense kind of situation, these are great little radios to have, and I'm glad I got them. But I recognized that I needed to be able to do a little more. Specifically, what if, and God forbid, we were in a situation where I had to do not long-range patrols, but patrols outside of our property. Let's say I found a need that I needed to patrol up into my neighbors to check on them, or even up toward the bridge. Now that's getting about half a mile away with lots of woods in between. So these guys don't do it. And when they do, they're spotty. They're not dependable. So I looked at stepping up to something bigger. So I got these Midlands. Now here's a little side story, and it's a real negative about Midland. I started out this hunt for a radio, and I didn't have any brand in mind. But I thought, wouldn't it be great to find out if anybody here in America is still producing radios made in the USA? And if so, throw my money behind them. So I started searching the brands, trying to find somebody that made them in America. And when I couldn't find any information online, I would write the company. And I wrote Midland. And I asked Midland, where is the GXT radio made? And the GXT is kind of their front runner handheld GMRS FRS radio. And the support people wrote back and said they're made in the Philippines. You know what? I love the Philippines. I love Filipinos. I love their culture. I almost married a Filipino and Filipina. And I didn't really almost marry her. I almost told her I was going to marry her. Anyway, that's a different story. But I was very happy to hear that these radios were made in the Philippines. So that was the big sway that caused me to buy from Midland. And I get the thing in, and lo and behold, on the bottom of the box, what does it say? What do my wondering eyes do appear? But made in China. And that really disappointed me. But even more disappointing was when I wrote the support people, they replied to their email that said made in the Philippines and said these aren't. What's the deal with that? Their response, kind of terse, was you can return them if you want. That really rubbed me the wrong way. And Midland, I know I don't have but 5 followers, but if you ever stumble on this video, you need to work with your support people. That was bad public relations, and it put a dirty taste in my mouth. And I did think for a little while about returning them. And if there was a company out there that I knew of that made them in America, you guys wouldn't darken my door. But anyway, that really put a bad taste in my mouth. That to the side, they are pretty good radios. They're GMRS, FRS radios. They advertise that they have, 50 something channels. Now what they actually do is they have 22 channels just like everybody else, but then they take 28 channels that they add a privacy code to, and I don't understand all that stuff, that kind of tweaks them to make a second channel. And that's cool. They have group call, they have SOS, they have weather, and they work real good. They also have this neat little charging base that you can recharge the radios when you're not using them. They have this little doodad where you can plug in the charging base, not the radio, but the charging base in your car, which I thought was a little weird. I would have thought plug in the separate radio, but no, it's the charging base. And then they have the aforementioned Let Me Hurt Your Ear headsets. So, pretty good radios. This is how I tested them. I jumped in the car, left my wife in the house, and I went roaring up the road. And I was able to talk to her for about a mile and a half. I kind of gave up at a mile and a half. And if you think about it, I mean, I'm not in Nevada. I'm not in Utah. This is a woody area, and no hills, but it's very woody. And for me to be able to talk from my open window car to her in the house for a mile and a half made me very happy. And the reason why it made me happy is because I look at it this way. These radios were bought, for the most part, with the idea that if I had to leave on foot or in a vehicle and patrol my neighborhood, I don't really live in a neighborhood, but the country surrounding my home, a mile and a half is pretty far. And these radios do that. No problem at all. So they do what I want them to do. Now here's the other neat thing. These radios, I'll talk with these radios because they're all GMRS, FRS. Those 22 channels are the same channels. Now, like I said, these guys got some extra channels, but the first 22 are the same channels, and they jump between GMRS and FRS. And you can look all that stuff up. Like I said, my eyes roll in the back of my head when I start talking about that stuff. Now, one thing that you do need to know is legally you should get a license to operate these radios. Now, there's no test. It's not like a ham radio license. You go onto the website, which, if you've never been on a government website, the FCC website for getting the license is the poster child for bad government. If you ever miss the Driver's License Bureau, the DMV, just go on this website and try to navigate it, and you'll get your fill. But you can get your license there. It does cost money. Right now it costs $70. Supposedly that price is going to be cut in half soon, but they don't say when soon is. So not knowing the government, not knowing when that would happen, I just went ahead and paid the $70. Now here's what you get for your $70. You get a 10-year license to operate GMRS radios. Now that license applies to you, your wife, your mom, your dad, your daughter, your aunt, your uncle, your brother-in-law. They specifically say your entire family. When your brother-in-law can work off your license, that's pretty incredible. So for 10 years, $70, 10 years, everybody's covered. When you go through and get your license, you are assigned a call sign, and you're supposed to, say your call sign every 15 minutes or so, or maybe it's every 5. I have to go back and read, but you're supposed to periodically state your call sign when you're talking on one of these. Now, obviously, in an emergency situation, which is what these are really bought for, those things kind of go out the window. But to stay in Dutch with the law right now, you do need to get a license to operate these. Now, you may be like me and just buy some of these and put them away and really not use them once you make sure that they work. Every now and then you pull them out, you PM them, make sure they still work. In that case, I could see not going with a license because you're waiting for SHTF. And in SHTF, the FCC police will probably have more to do than hunting you down. But I wanted to stay on the right side of the law, and in case I did decide I want to use these, especially now that I've got these heavier duty radios. They're pretty hefty. They feel good. They are not cheap. These are pretty cheap, but these are pretty hefty little radios, and I like them, I have to say. The only thing I'm unhappy about, not that they're made in China, because from what I can see, all of them are now, but that the company did such a bad job of representing themselves when I specifically asked. If you make stuff and you farm it all out to China, you don't have to be proud of it. God, no, don't be. But be upfront about it and say you make it in China. If anybody knows of a GRMS radio, especially as we get into the larger GMRS radios that are made in the U.S., let me know, because the plan right now, as I slowly build my comm plan, is the next step will be a land-based or vehicle-based large antenna GRMS radio, GMRS radio, and when I do make that, pull that trigger, it would be nice to get something that was made in the U.S. Anyway, there's my comm plan as it stands today. There's my review of the Midland Gxt1000 series radios. I do recommend them, as long as it doesn't hurt you in the craw, to buy Chinese-made products. And I appreciate you being here. Hey, thanks for watching.